Meditation 17. Stop thinking. Perhaps the most important thing I can say to you today is to stop thinking. The law of attraction works best for people who don't spend a lot of time in thought, either because they're too busy to think or because they have learned to monitor their thoughts. As I've said before, the ability to monitor your thoughts is something you must strive for if you want to successfully work with the law of attraction. The reason is because our thoughts tend to be our enemy. If you don't believe me, just try to recall the things you think about on those nights when you can't fall asleep. Are you regretting things that happened in the past, or are you worrying about something in the future? Are you wondering if your dreams will never come true, or are you blaming yourself for past mistakes? Are you worrying about your kids, marriage, job, bank account, or health? Are you grieving, anxious, or depressed? Do you just sit there getting madder at yourself for not being able to stop thinking? Or, on the flip side, on nights that you can't sleep, do you tell yourself that it's okay, you'll fall asleep eventually if you just relax? Then you lean back, turn off your thoughts, and drift off to sleep. Most people fall into the first category. This is because most of us don't know how to manage our thoughts. We feel like we're a victim of our minds. We have no control over it. It just thinks what it wants when it wants. So on those nights when it's hard to fall asleep, most people blame nonstop thoughts. That's because most people don't realize that they can control their thoughts. They don't even know why such a thing would be desirable. But rule one in the law of attraction is that you at least control your thoughts. But I'm taking it a step forward today and saying you need to stop thinking, period, or at least so much. This idea isn't radical or unheard of. I learned this from the author Eckhart Tolle, who teaches us about the importance of being present in the moment. He suggests that compulsive thinking is like a form of insanity. Tolle believes what any Buddhist monk will tell you, which is that you need to pay attention to what you're doing as you're doing it. Your mind should be on what you're doing, where you are, what's going on, etc. For example, you shouldn't be preoccupied with your wedding when you're shopping for a hammer. Yet people do it all the time. That's why some people lose their car keys or wallets at the store or gas station. Their minds are not on what they're doing. It's why we rear end other cars, burn or cut ourselves, or even have to rewind movies. Thinking is certainly necessary when you're trying to solve a problem at work, retrace your steps, or plan an event, but as a race, humans think obsessively. We find ourselves thinking so much we can't even remember what happened on the drive home from work. We can't recall seeing a particular building that we know we passed because our minds were elsewhere. The reason why this is undesirable is because much of the time we're fixated on something negative. Sometimes you could be thinking of something pleasant that you're anticipating, remembering, or fantasizing about. Maybe you're in a new romance. Those cause a lot of thinking. But the majority of the time, we're worrying, dreading, or regretting. All of this negative thinking is bad for your health, and it's a waste of time. You're taking the present moment, which is typically neutral, and turning it into something negative. What could have been a moment of relaxation becomes a nail biter, or a pity party, or a breeding ground for jealousy and suspicion. Thinking long and thinking wrong. To help you understand how important it is to shut off your thoughts, just think about the Buddhist monks and what they call a walking meditation. You walk slowly, savoring the sensation of your feet on the ground, the air in your lungs, the flexing of your muscles, and the rhythm of your breathing. This spiritual practice brings about mindfulness. Your thoughts aren't racing around like crazy. They're focused on the present moment, taking it all in. Yes, walking meditation has health benefits, both mental and physical, but it also clears away the thoughts that block us from manifesting our desires. That's why it's vital to break the habit of constant thinking. We must learn to observe our thoughts if we want to get rid of them. That's the only way we can separate our thoughts from ourselves. Once you separate your thoughts from yourself, you can recognize how pointless most of them are. So, we want to start by observing our thoughts. Catch yourself when you're lost in a thought. Is it negative, positive, helpful, damaging, scary, tempting, disturbing? In previous videos, I've told you to halt and pivot when you have a negative thought. You stop thinking the negative thought and replace it with a better thought. But now, I'm saying just don't think at all. Just pay attention to what you're doing. We're always doing something. Even when we're just sitting there staring straight ahead, we're doing something. We're thinking, right? Other than that, we're cooking, cleaning, watching TV, reading a book, working out, working, having sex, helping the kids, on the phone, chasing the cat, whatever. Once you start observing your thoughts, you'll realize just how much you don't pay attention to what you're doing. You'll realize that you're living in a world that really doesn't exist because it's in the past or the future, but it's not now. This is how we miss out on life. This is how we miss something cute our son did as a baby, how we miss an admiring gleam in a parent's eye, or how we miss a beautiful sunset because our mind is on last night's storm. This is how we miss out on life. Things happen to us, through us, for a reason. Cues get planted along the way, hints, nudges. The universe tries its level best, and we don't pay attention because we're lost in thought. As I said, it's fine to plan, to use your brain to write a book or paint a picture. The brain is meant to be a creative tool, not a shit factory. We all have that elderly family member who thinks everybody is stealing from them. People like that think too much. Anyway, I cannot stress enough that when we're lost in thought, we're not actively participating in the moment, which means we're living on autopilot, which means we are controlled by our uncontrolled thoughts, which are, by nature, almost always negative. I'm going to repeat that. We are controlled by our uncontrolled thoughts. We all know damn well that if we think about doing something enough, we're going to do it. If we think about things that make us miserable, we're going to be miserable. Once I stopped thinking, life became so much better. I don't think about work away from work. I don't sit and worry or regret. As a result, I'm able to feel more confident with what is. And that, darling, is the spiritual goal. Feeling content with what is. It doesn't mean I wouldn't like to change some things. I most certainly do, but I don't dwell on them anymore. I'm in grief over the loss of my daughter 2 years ago, but I know how to manage my thoughts about her. I can smile at memories with pure pleasure, and I no longer torment myself with regrets or what-ifs. I've been monitoring my thoughts for 20 years. I know it doesn't come naturally, but you can monitor them. Then you can steer them, then control them, and finally you can eliminate them. Imagine a world where people don't fall down a flight of stairs or run a red light or lose their belongings because instead of thinking, they actually watched what they were doing. Think of it this way. You have a rare chance to sit outside on a starry night at a house in the mountains. The stars are bright and close, the weather is perfect, there's a gentle breeze, and not a mosquito around. But you're 500 miles away fighting with your sister in your head. Or you go from thinking about the beauty of the stars to worrying about climate change. Your thoughts can block your blessings. Granted, we can't change what's real, but we can change how we manage our reality, how we survive our reality here on Earth. Because life is hard enough without us making it harder with obsessive thinking, especially the kind of thinking that torments us. So please sit up straight, relax your shoulders, close your eyes, and fall into the gap between thoughts.